Hey, what's up everybody? Andre with AndreReese.Biz. All right guys, we're out here on another cyclecast out here in Richmond, Virginia, RVA as we like to call it. And I'm out here right around 3 o'clock. So looks like VCU is kind of lit now, so there's a lot of action going on the street here. So I'm out on my normal ride. Want to just jump in real quick and talk to you guys about a few subjects like I normally do. So what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about Love is Blind, the finale that just took place for Ohio. We'll also chop it up about the LA marathon that just happened a few weeks back. Some important lessons that can be learned there. Let's also talk about the Essence Festival. And most important, let's talk about JCPenney's as well and their former CEO, Ron Johnson. I think the last thing I'm going to talk about is Sisters at Sea, which is an unprecedented event. It's about ready to happen with Virgin Voyages. So that's what's up on the docket today. The final topic is, as always, the big topic, which is Sisters of the Sea. So let's go ahead and jump in and start talking. So like I said, we've got a wonderful day out here in RVA. I think the temperature is somewhere around 75-ish, so it's perfect. And I got my bicycle back. So I got Moto Bay back, picked her up yesterday. The guy called me on Tuesday night and said, hey, we got both bikes taken care of. You can come and get it if you can come in like the next 10 minutes. I was like, nah, it's all cool, bro. Go home. I'll see you on Wednesday. So I went ahead and picked up the bikes yesterday. And Marilyn and I had a chance to go out in the evening just for a quick little ride. We did like a little 4-mile ride around the area. We went over to the new stadium and kind of rode back home. So it was pretty cool. And the bikes are in awesome working conditions. So both mine and both hers. So we're very happy for the job that the guy did on the maintenance. And I tell you, when I picked my bike up, I was almost like, my bike looked just like it did the first time I took it out the box and put it together. It was clean, sparkling. He put all the parts, like the chain and all the gears into the ultrasonic cleaner, and the noise that I had on my bike that it was making is gone now. So a brother is extremely happy. And like I said, I'm out right now for the first time since, and headed down to the river like I normally do, and so excited. So I think I might take my other bike down there and at some point get it cleaned up and hang it back up, so it's ready to go next time. And I might even just use it sometimes locally around town if we're gonna go get some ice cream or go to the baseball game or something. It's a sentimental bike, but kind of a throwaway bike if you kind of look at it that way, and if something happened where it got iced, a brother's not gonna cry too much, so, but there we go. But before we get into everything, the one thing I want to definitely do is take this time to thank you guys for taking the time to watch my videos. I try to keep these videos right about an hour, and I'm very thankful for all you guys that watch these videos and provide me with feedback just by letting me know that you watched it. So I'm so thankful for that. And like I said, I've talked about this many times ago, but the reason why I do these videos is to help kind of talk people through a lot of what's happening, what's going on, and let you know that no matter what happens in your mind, if it's good or bad, there's always a lesson that can be learned. So if you can get past the initial shock and kind of dig down into things a little bit, you'll be able to at least learn something. And let you guys also see kind of what my thought process is, how I take things that are chaotic and make sense out of them, and try to learn lessons also as well. So these are no different than conversations I have with my clients with my friends, you know, anybody that's in my close circle. So, you know, and the other thing that's wonderful too is that I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you guys for sure. But the one thing that happens is with my videos, when I post them on Facebook, they're primarily designed to go up on YouTube. That's the primary home, because I'm working on getting my subscribers up. Now I've got up to 700 subscribers, and my watch hours are trending right now in the last 28 days. They're like 2,400 watch hours. But if you take the amount of content that people are watching on a monthly basis on a new rolling average and extrapolate that over 13 cycles, I've got nearly 5,000 watch hours, which is enough to get me monetized. So I'm producing content, putting it up regularly to be able to keep the algorithm going. But the one thing that's really exciting is when I look at Facebook, Facebook provides me with a very unique, the metrics that I get from Facebook are pretty limited, but the one thing that I constantly see is that, you know, even though my videos are an hour long, folks on Facebook watch my videos to the end on average about 20% of the time. You know, so sometimes a little bit less and sometimes up to 40% of the people. So if I make a 1 hour long video, I've got folks that will tune all the way in until the end and watch the video, you know, roughly about 20% of the time. So if I have 100 people that watch the video, you know, in total, you know, 20 to 40 will actually stay all the way to the end and watch it, which is amazing. I'm very happy and thankful about that statistic and that figure. So, like I said, I want to thank you guys for sure for being a part of this journey here and getting this game. And like I said, this is all designed to allow me to get monetized on YouTube, but most importantly, continue to gain new clients. You know, so this is information that folks are able to see and make a decision if I'm the right guy for them, and without having to do a lot of conversation back and forth. Folks can do their own due diligence at their own pace and decide if I'm a guy that was going to work for them or not. So, like I said, I'm always very thankful and appreciative to all my clients and my friends that watch my comments or watch my content. So, for sure, guys, appreciate that. So let's go ahead and jump into the first conversation topic here. So let's talk about love is blind. Man, this, like I said, I am a guy that loves the smoke, the funk, and the beef, but I run a very, very clean life. I like to stay out of this stuff. So I'll watch crime movies and drug dealer movies and really get into it, but I'm not gonna be out there doing anything like that at all. I'll watch movies about the military and conquest and all this other kind of stuff. I'm not out there trying to do this stuff at all in any kind of way, you know. And I see a lot of these shows about dating and, you know, relationships and how bad they can be. I am an observer from the sidelines, you know, and I find great humor and appreciation for what folks have to go through to get to where they're trying to be, you know. So, but if you guys had a chance to watch Love is Blind, the current season, you know, that takes place in Ohio, it is just absolutely mind-bending, you know. And I've done some videos before in the past about Ohio and about dating and about having to you know, go through the calamity of the dating market if this is what you're trying to do right now, to find a honey boo-boo. But man, if you get a chance, like I said, watch the whole season and then watch the season finale. And there was a very heartbreaking scene on there. So there's actually two people that were dating, and they were I think she's mixed, so black and white, and I think she's black and Colombian. And you can kind of tell from the very beginning that the way they kind of put this whole thing together, you know, she wasn't being maybe completely honest with him, and he wasn't being completely honest with her. And I think they have a preference for who they prefer to date. You know, all good, everybody's allowed to have that. And so there's a point where everybody moves in together, and then they eventually start living together and seeing if they can make it happen. Then there's a point where they go over to each other's houses and they get a chance to meet the parents and all that. And I kind of already knew it was going to happen based upon what I had seen on a video. But you know, homeboy was going through the motions and saying all the right things, and you know, fantastic. And so the father of the bride-to-be, he was very, very happy and ecstatic that his daughter found somebody, you know. And in the end, was it all show? Was it all an act? You know, probably. It all depends upon how you want to, what lens you want to kind of look it through. But in the end, you know, they get to the finale of the show, and you know, you get to see that, you know, the guy and the girl, they did not end up getting together at all. And so the father was there in the audience, and he was kind of grilling the guy a little bit and all that. But I think the sad part was where, you know, they all found out that the guy found another girl and he was dating her already. The bride-to-be was still single, and most importantly, he had gotten the lady pregnant, and so he had a baby that was on the way. And so you should see the look on the father's face. He was just absolutely crushed, you know, and so were a number of the members of the audience and all that as well. And so in the end, you know, something like that hurts a lot. It really does. But I'll tell you, I tell people this all the time. If you're in a relationship or you're heavily involved with a family member and they pass, you know, the first year after that relationship or that person is gone is the hardest, especially if you did holidays together. How you doing? Especially if you did holidays together, you know, you had traditions and all that. So the first year when all that stuff comes up, you know, you're gonna be really, really melancholy about it. You know, it's to be expected. But after that, it gets easier and easier and easier, you know, so. But man, it was definitely tough on the father and what he was expecting. And all any of us can do is if things don't work out for whatever reason, a lot of times you might have been, you know, saved from a potential disaster. All good, you know. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, as they say. But the most important thing is, if something like this happens to you that's really bad, you can't let it affect you for the rest of your life. You can't hold everybody else accountable for what happened. And that's an example of one of the other ladies that was on there. She had a baby, child, and the guy was, I forget what the couple's name was, but she, you know, he said he would never date anyone with kids, and she had a kid. He made an exception. They were one of the few couples that got married. There's only 2 of them. But when they came back on the reunion, man, it was a hot mess. They had ended their relationship after like 4 months. And you can tell that the lady was just an angry person. All good, nothing wrong with that. And a lot of it was what she was bringing in her life based upon what's happened before in the past. And the guy said it, he was a really, really nice guy. Really, really nice guy, legitimate nice guy. And he was like, hey, I was being crucified constantly because of stuff that other guys had did to her that I had nothing to do. I never got the benefit of the doubt at all, you know, and she just took out her anger on me all the time, and which was really sad. You know, I get it.
Distance 4 points.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you have to make sure that, you know, if you do decide to go into relationships in the future, you got to be able to take all that stuff and get over it and not hold the next person accountable. If something bad happens to you, just make sure you don't do those same mistakes again, so you keep living in the same cycle. And if you end up holding everybody in the future responsible for what happened to you in the past, you'll never be able to advance at all. And lo and behold, at one point she got up, she was so angry and she stormed off a stage. They eventually calmed her down and brought her back, and he was just kind of like, see, this is exactly a small sample of what I was going through, you know. So, but like I said, be sure to watch it. It was smoked funk beef, all that stuff in a bag of chips, and hopefully this will give you an insight in some of the things that you can do to potentially help yourself when it comes to trying to get into a long-term relationship that might turn into marriage one day or engagement, that you can kind of learn from some of the people here and some of their mistakes that they've made in the past, you know. So hey, how you doing? So yeah, definitely a show that's worth watching for sure. So all right, so that's enough of that. Let's talk about the LA Marathon. Did you guys see the final result? I think this happened probably this point now about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But the LA Marathon, the final finish, man, it was absolutely crazy. And there's some significant lessons that can be learned from the final results. And so to kind of give you guys a rundown, so pretty much, I think since 1994, 95, 96, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit later, East Africa, specifically Kenya, has produced powerhouses that have dominated the Los Angeles Marathon. And so a lot of folks know that the Kenyan runners a lot of times have an advantage when it comes to winning these competitions, you know. So, and it's nothing to be shocked or surprised at. And so the Los Angeles Marathon, for the most part, has been dominated by my East African brethren. And so all good. And so like the last 2 years, that streak has been broken. So I think last year they had an American guy, white dude, that won the marathon. I think he won it by 3 minutes, you know. And so this year they had the 2026 version of it. And this marathon that the brother won, he won it by essentially like half of a step is what it was. And so it's an incredible story of not giving up and believing in yourself and trying to take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way that will allow you to exceed, excel, and win. So the Kenyan brother that was running the marathon, he had made a couple of critical errors. And the first one really started at the beginning, actually before the race. And so when you're gonna do a marathon, it's at least 26 miles. I don't know how many kilometers it is. 26 in a fraction, I think it is. And dude ended up making a decision. He said, hey, I'm not going to take any fluids at all during this race. So he's not going to stop and take any water, any electrolytes, anything. He's just going to run straight through this race and make it to the end, and he's going to be the winner. Now, I don't know the science behind why he decided to do this. You know, I can tell you that whenever I go and do long rides and, you know, the weather's fairly decent, I will drop quite a bit of water. And if I don't stay hydrated, it just affects my body, and I get to the point where I'm just a mess. And so I always bring water, I bring electrolytes, all that kind of stuff. And so, and a lot of times what I would do before in the past, if I did big rides and stuff, if it was extremely hot and I drank all my water, I would stop riding and turn around and head back, because it's easier to coast downhill than it is to try to keep going without any fluids, and you can just really mess yourself up. You know, so homeboy made that decision. And so when you watch like the last 5 minutes of the race, it's definitely worth watching. You'll see that he was the leader, and he was struggling. His form was all off, and the way his arms were flailing, his legs were failing. He was trying to do everything he could to try to hold it together and maintain his lead. And so the other brother from the US, I believe he was a PE teacher somewhere in the Midwest, I think. I don't remember exactly, but he was a PE teacher. And, you know, he had a trainer, and he was trying to just get here and just place, but he had an opportunity, as it turned out, that he was running real well, to really have a great showing in this whole thing, you know, all good. And that's what he did.
Distance 5
and so
miles, duration 33 minutes.
There's a point where there's a point where they do not allow the pace cars, because if you ever watch one of the races, they have a pace car that's in front of the runners, and the pace car has the miles that they've ran and the time and all that. That way, if they're trying to you know, break a record or whatever it might be, they could you know, look up easily and see where they are. Well, the pace car is not allowed to cross the finish line, or any of the other support vehicles or motorcycles that are with them. So they only allow runners to cross the finish line. And I'm assuming that's because if it gets kind of crazy at the end, they don't want there to be any dispute. So usually about 1,000 meters, there's an exit. So homeboy is running behind the pace car, and he's visibly exhausted. And the pace car leaves the route, and he follows it. And so then he realizes that he went the wrong way, and he turned around and tried to run back. And another lady that was holding the flag of his nation, she kind of got in the way for a second or two, but he finally got back on course. And like I said, they're about 1,000 meters out from the finish line. And so the other guy, the school teacher, the other brother, he saw the opportunity, and he turned on the burners, and he started hustling and running hard. And at some point, the Kenyan cat looks back to see where he is, and he tries to adjust. But the brother, is a PE teacher, he kept running and gunning, and all the way down to the finish line, you know, within mere meters, he catches him, and he passes and beats him by like half a step, you know. So, and then the Kenyan brother, he falls out on the ground. They come over and try to, you know, provide him with support and all that. And man, it was a tough one. And so in the end, you know, ultimately, you know, the brother from the US, he's the one that won the marathon. And so what's the lesson to be learned here? I'm telling you guys, just because you are the best, just because you dominate, just because you have a long track record of destroying the competition, every race is different and unique. And, you know, you can never ever sit and rest on your laurels, so to speak. You have to always be on top of your game, you know, for sure. And 2 years now, my everybody in East Kenya or East Africa, they have not finished in #1 for the LA Marathon. You know, all good. So hopefully at some point they will kind of realize that they need to re-step the game back up and make some adjustments, and then keep going. So like I said, if you dominate something you run something, you're in charge of something, you're killing the competition, you have to always be on your best behavior and your best game every day, because every day creates an opportunity where you can actually lose. And then the choice that he made to not hydrate himself is what probably ended up costing him the race. Two ways. One, he lost his form, he lost his physique, or his method of running. And then the second thing that happened is because he was struggling immensely, he ended up making a really, really bad decision and lost his train of thought and followed the pace cars off the main course. You know, so, and that's the thing, you always have to be 100% prepared and be ready to perform and know your track and your trail. You got to stay on it, because if you don't, ultimately in the end, what can end up happening is something very similar to this. You know, a couple of major mistakes end up costing him, you know, the race, you know, so, but in the end, all good. You know, it was a fantastic thing to watch. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched, you know, the highlights online. I think I initially saw it on TikTok and then came back afterwards and watched, you know, probably like the last 10 minutes of the race kind of a thing. And so, but definitely lessons that we can all learn here and what happened and what went down. You know, so I'll just leave it at that. And yeah, the LA Marathon. Get a chance to watch it, go see it. So let's go ahead and jump into real quick. Let's talk about the Essence Festival, and we'll talk about JCPenney's and Ron Johnson, the CEO, from I think back in 2012-ish. So there's a lot of stuff happening right now with the Essence Festival, and I've kind of talked about it before. What ended up happening is the original owners of the festival end up selling it off to someone from the continent. All good, you know, and they've made some decisions to change the way the festival operated, specifically last year. And it's always been a festival that's been designed to, you know, focus on, you know, foundational Black American women, and also on their achievements and beauty and fitness and arts and culture. And so last year things kind of migrated a little bit more towards, you know, probably the best way to describe it is a little bit more Pan-African, you know, with less focus on foundationalism. All good. And the way I feel is there's a lot of people that are very, very upset about what happened. And I get it, you know. And the way I see it is any business that you have, that you start, or that you acquire, or actually any business that you start, you can do anything you want with it. You can sell it to whoever you want to. And this even goes with like a home. You can buy a home and sell it to whoever you want to when you're done. And so the original owners of Essence sold it, cool. And the patrons, which is the core, have expected that the nature of the expo would remain the same, but it's changed, which is okay. And like I said, anybody that owns something, they're allowed to do whatever they want with it. And if you already have a built-in audience and you decide you want to pivot or try to expand or alienate your audience, you're more than happy to do that. And so as consumers, what are your choices to kind of continue to go along with the madness, or you decide to pivot and walk away? And I even talked about this when it came to, you know, the NFL. You know, they are making provisions to try to expand into South America, and they know they have a solid core audience, and by them pivoting and trying to bring in more bodies into the organization, they have pretty much feel that they can guarantee that the folks that are already there, they'll complain, they'll bellyache, but they're not going to take their jerseys and their sports dens and season tickets and throw them all into the trash. All good. They're allowed to do that. That's their business, you know. And so what's happened with Essence is they are at the point now where from last year they have $1.5 million in unpaid bills, you know. And so there's, I think, roughly about 500,000 or so in unpaid bills to the venue, and there's another 1 million in unpaid bills to vendors that were part of the event. And so in the last year or so, people have been extremely upset about their pivot and what they've done. And you know, ultimately in the end, I think this is the first time the name brand has ever really been soiled with not having to pay its bills. All good. And so now here we are coming into the next festival that's coming up here. And they've got a, you know, and like I said, a lot of folks say that they will not participate. And I'm talking about a lot of folks. These are folks that are foundational, that are, that have counted on the brand to do what it has done before. Like I said, all good. But like I said, folks, if they are part of the core and they're no longer feel like they're being taken care of, they have every right in the world to express themselves and turn around and walk away. And that is apparently what's happening. And so we'll see what happens with the festival this year. And especially after the backlash last year. And I think the nail in the coffin is going to be the fact that they owe so much money already and it's not paid. So the only way you're going to be able to pay 1.5 million in back bills is two things. You're going to have to sell tickets and make it up. But from my understanding, most of these sites, when you sell tickets, you don't get the money until the event actually happens. And so the other thing they're going to have to do is that if they are able to do that, they're going to have to get everybody to hold off as long as possible, turn around and pay last year's bill, but then they still have all the bills for this year to have to try to deal with. And so it makes it really, really difficult. And so the only other way you can kind of wipe all this clean is that if the owner comes to the table with his own money and backstops it and gives it another chance, you know, or, you know, the whole thing ends up dying. So, and that's kind of what may ultimately happen. So we'll see. I've never been to Essence Festival before, and I don't know if I have any desire to go now, or if I've never really had any desire to go before. So nothing's really changed with me. If I got some free tickets to go, or some for next to nothing, I would find a way to go to check it out to see what all the hoopla is about, you know, one time, and then make an evaluation. And like I said, this kind of, and I kind of mentioned about JCPenney's. This kind of reminds me of what happened with JCPenney's. And like I said, most of the time when stuff happens in this world, business-wise or life-wise, there's somebody else that's already gone through this that we can learn from. And JCPenney's has, I don't know how many years they've been around or how many decades, you know, probably closer to 100 years or something. They started out as a very, very small company, then they became a catalog company, and you know, they've expanded, they've had a bunch of stores and all that. And then they're at the point now where they've closed a lot of stores and they are surviving on life support. And so back in, I think 2011 or 12, there was a CEO named Ron Johnson. He actually worked for Target at one point in his career. He was there for a number of years and he was responsible for their merchandising and all that. And he came over to Apple. And when you go into an Apple store and you see the clean, the simplicity, the lines of the organization and how everything looks and Phil, he's the one that's responsible for that because he was like the, I don't know if he was the VP of marketing or store experience or whatever. So whenever you go into an Apple store, that whole experience is the one that he created. And so the chances of him ever becoming the CEO of Apple were probably pretty limited. I mean, even at this point right now, he would have had to hang on as long as possible. And even right now, Tim Cook is still there. So he made a decision to, bounce and leave, and he left to become the CEO of JCPenney's. All good. And so he is credited, you can check this if you want to, as probably having a record for the worst retail tenure ever in history. And so what he did was he went to JCPenney's, he stayed there for 17 months and ran the store into the ground. And what did he do? So if you've ever shopped at JCPenney's, the core audience that is there, they love the coupons. They love stacking coupons. They love finding items that are on sale, applying coupons to them, getting the receipt to print out for one item. It's like 3 feet long because of all the discounts that apply. That's what they love, And so when he came into JCPenney's as the CEO, he brought the techniques and the way that Apple worked. So Apple doesn't have sales. They pretty much sell things for a fair price. And that's what he did. So he eliminated the coupons, he eliminated the thrill of the hunt, and tried to spend some time explaining to his customers that, this is how we're gonna run things going forward in the future. And so what ended up happening is the core audience for JCPenney's rebelled. They stopped shopping. I think one quarter they lost almost $1 billion in lost revenue. They also lost like another, I think the stock over the time that he was there declined like almost 67%. So it is an absolute pure disaster what happened. And so what did he end up doing? They made a decision to get rid of the previous CEO, bring in somebody that came from Apple that tried to implement a completely different way of doing business with the customers, and it failed. And so, like I said, this is very comparable to what's happened with Essence. So they had the core audience, they made a decision to alienate them, and in the end, we'll see if they end up paying a price for it. So if you look back at history, like I said, and you can easily see this story, and Johnson, he was fired from JCPenney's promptly, and then they brought back the previous CEO to try to revive it. And I tell you, the company has not been the same since. So they were always functioning on life support. So it's an incredible lesson that you can learn, that if you rely upon anybody, you can't take them for advantage. I don't care if that's a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, customers, clients. You can never ever, get to the point where you don't respect them, you don't appreciate them, because in the end, when they're gone, they're gone. And so the funny thing about Rob is that he left JCPenney's, and I went and looked at his LinkedIn. You guys can go look at it too. He ended up starting his own company, and it was like a retail online store somewhere around 2014-ish, and it went public, and within like a year and a half of it going public, it went bankrupt and went out of business. So, and since then, he hasn't really done anything. And the crazy thing is, whatever the last position he had, which is he's no longer at, and I see folks do this all the time. They lose their job and they don't update their LinkedIn. So, and they only update their LinkedIn once they find a new job. So you may know people, and I know folks out there that have lost their jobs and stuff. And if you go look at their LinkedIn, it still shows that they're working. And I'm just letting you guys know, no matter what level you're at, whether you're the junior, mid-career, mid-level, executive level, CEO level, that is kind of a common thing that folks do out there. They don't update their last job until they find something else to replace it with. And so he's at the point where I know he's got millions and millions and millions of dollars, and he doesn't really have to do anything at all. I think he still resides in the Bay Area. And when he was working for JCPenney's, he would commute back and forth via private jet from the Bay Area down to Texas, where they were headquartered. So yeah, guys, something to definitely be aware of. So the final part of the story here is, you can never take for granted your core customers. And if you do, and they decide that they want out, you're gonna have to ultimately pay the price. And so I'm not wishing anything bad or negative on Essence and the group that owns them now, but they have a very difficult horizon to try to overcome. And the business world is littered with instances where companies turned against their core audience and they never recovered. So these are all things that we all can learn from. So that's it. Got nothing else to talk about there. Down to my final topic, and let's talk about the Sisters at Sea. So that is the final topic today. So what is the Sisters at Sea? So if you guys been following us, we went on a Virgin cruise recently, and I tell you, Virgin Voyages was founded by Richard Branson, and I don't know how they got the idea and the story behind it, but everything that they've ever been involved in, whether it's been music or soda or other things, they try to do things differently than the industry does. And so they wanted to take the cruise experience and kind of uncruise it. And so with the cruise experience, there's a certain expectation of things that you can expect to happen across the board, and he pretty much eliminated all that stuff. So when we were on the cruise, you don't have to tip. Everything pretty much is included. All the fine dining restaurants are included. There's no buffets. If you want, almost every company makes you pay for soda pop unless it's one of the higher end ones. And all your drinks and coffee and tea are all included. So you have a very, very nice and inclusive experience. The only thing you have to pay for is alcoholic beverages, and if you buy something in one of the shops, you go on some excursions or whatever, those are all costs that you gotta pay out of pocket, all good, and so like I said, we went on a Valentine's Day cruise, and after we were on that cruise ship and experienced the Virgin way, we were like, man, we don't need to cruise on any other cruise ship anymore. Matter of fact, we had a cruise, I said this before, that was booked for February, and on Carnival out of the local port here, I came home and canceled it immediately. And so, one of the things that we had heard was on this last cruise that we were going on for Valentine's Day, they were all four of their ships. So Virgin is a brand new cruise line. They started right around COVID, and they really didn't get to sail at all because everything got shut down. And in the meantime, they built their first ship, Scarlet Lady, and they have built two other ships in there. And then they just finished the last one recently. And so now they have a complete, group of 4 ships that are essentially identical to each other. And I think the last one is the Panama class, so they can actually sail through the Panama Canal. So they have a couple dimensions and adjustments on the lifeboats so that they could make it through. I think the term is called Panamax. So it's Panamax certified. All good. And so when we heard about it before we were going on the cruise for Valentine's Day, we heard that all the ships, like I said, were going to be in the same area together, and they were going to have a surprise meetup in the ocean. And so everything was buzzing across the cruise world, and everybody was excited. And then Virgin came out and said, no, we're not going to do that. We may do something later, And so I was really excited if something like that happened, where we were all going to be in the ocean together. And actually we all were in the Miami Caribbean area. And I was excited to be a part of the ship meetup and all that. And so now Virgin has officially created an event for next year that takes place on February 16th. And it's called Sisters at Sea. And it's essentially what I just described to you, but it's actually a giant publicity and PR event. And so what they're going to do is this is the first time ever that any cruise line has had all of its ships meet up at one central point in the ocean. So what they're going to do is they're going to meet, I think, roughly off of the Cuban, off of Cuba, roughly about 40 miles or so. They're all going to meet in the ocean, and it's going to be an event that they're going to have parties, and Richard Branson is actually going to show up, and he's going to go between ship on that day. They're going to have special music artists and giveaways and memorabilia and all this stuff that's going to be happening around this event. And so, like I said, it is something that is absolutely historic and incredible. And I would say it almost be at the level, like this year, a lot of people like or don't like America, but the country is having its 250th anniversary. And so Washington, D.C. will be ground zero for one of the largest celebrations of its kind ever in history, according to what the website says. So they're going to have one of the largest fireworks displays ever in the world. And I think the largest one was in Dubai for New Year's Eve, maybe a couple years back. They had 800 shells. So this was supposed to be even bigger than that. And they launch it down at the Lincoln Memorial, out there at the pond. And they're expecting millions and millions of folks to come and celebrate the country. And so this is going to be something that's going to be on the grand scale of that. And what they're essentially doing is with the ships that will be there, and I know they'll be all at capacity, they'll have 15,000 loyal cruisers as well as employees that will be there to celebrate this event. And they're going to definitely do it in style. And so the second I heard about this, Maryland was out of town. I was like, oh man. How are we going to do this? Because we got a bunch of other stuff that's going on too. But as soon as she got home and she was settled, I was like, baby, you remember how they're supposed to do the meetup? Well, they're actually doing it. And it's taking place on the 16th of February. She was like, let's do it. So I was like, yes. So we went ahead and we booked, they've got, like I said, they've got 4 different cruises that will intersect. They have the one that we're going on is the Scarlet Lady. It's from the 15th to the 20th. It has a stop in Freeport as well as the Bimini Bahama Island. And I tell you that Bimini Resort is immaculate and incredible. So definitely looking forward to that. And you know, I've never been to Freeport before. We'll check that out. But the main event is going to be us meeting up at sea. So we are excited. We put our deposit down, and when it comes time to pay the balance, and I don't usually like to talk about anything that we have planned in the future. I don't. I would rather have you guys just be surprised about it. But this event here, I am absolutely excited, and I can't wait for it to happen and for it to come. You know, so like I said, they have another cruise that is 7 days, another one that's 10 days. I think they have another one that might be 7 days in there also as well. So they have them at different cruise lengths. So like I said, we're excited to participate in this event. If you guys end up coming out to sea, and hopefully we'll be able to see if you guys are on a different ship. When we pull up to each other, you know, hopefully we can reach out across the bow and fist bump you. So we're, like I said, we're looking forward to it. Because like I said, at this point now, we are fans of Virgin, and you know, this is where we will continue to put our time, energy, effort, and resources. If we decide that we want to cruise, we will definitely be on their ships. And the thing I like about them is that, I'll tell you, the cruise ships are so much inclusive of everybody. You know, you're gonna find whatever type of affinity group relates to relationships or individuals or people, you're gonna find them on the ship. Everybody's cool, everybody's there to have a good time, everybody's getting along with each other. The food is the best that I've experienced at sea, by far. And those hammocks that they have, oh my God, they are so incredible just to hang out in those hammocks and just swing. I really enjoy just waking up in the morning and hopping in the hammock and watching the sunrise. All very, very, very cool stuff. And the other thing too is there's a lot of stuff that they, like for example, right now we have the issues with gas prices and what's happening with them. Most of the cruise lines have built into their contracts that if a barrel of oil goes up over a certain price, that they will ding you $10 to $20 extra per day to help offset the cost of fuel. You know, Virgin's thought is, hey, you know, you paid a price and that's what you expect. You know, and that's the thing that we didn't like about the other cruise lines, is that we felt like we would get nickeled and dimed to death on everything. And everything is just a money hustle. And it's very similar, but on a softer side. Like some of the ports that you would sometimes go to in some of the areas of the country that aren't as well off, when you step off the cruise ship and you get very much inundated with everybody trying to get money from you, I kind of felt that that's kind of how things were on other cruise lines, but just softer. Everything that they can try to do to try to get money out of you from anything, everything, they would definitely do. So yeah, we really enjoy Virgin and what it offers and what it brings. And if you guys have not been on a Virgin cruise, they are now cruising, you know, on both coasts out of US. And then you figure later on this year in April, they'll take off and they'll head to Europe for a little while. Then they'll come back again in the fall, you know, to hang out in the Caribbean. So there's plenty of opportunities, you know, to be able to see them. And so the only thing I would tell you, that if you end up going on the cruise ship, Virgin, you want to make sure that you don't end up, if you end up picking a cabin, they have some low price fares where you don't get a choice. But if you go on the cruise ship, always cruise and pick a cabin, because I think it's maybe 7 or 8. Don't quote me, I don't have a map in front of me. But I think let's just say it's deck 7. So I think deck 7 is the last activity deck, you know, where they have, you know, the casinos and the clubs and all that kind of stuff. Above that is deck 8, and those are all above you know, activity that goes on all hours of the day, all hours of the night. And then deck 14 is right under deck 15, which is where the pool deck is and a bunch of activities. So if you end up going on a cruise and you book a cabin, you want to try to stay one deck above the first deck that's above the action and one deck that's below. So if you want to get a great view, you know, the highest you probably want to go is deck 13 on any one of their ships, you know. So, but that's it. Like I said, we're excited that it's coming. We're looking forward to being a part of this historic event. And where I am in my life right now, where we are, we're trying to do things that are mind-blowing, mind-bending, and that are epic, you know. And so this definitely falls under that. And there's been other times in history where ships have met up, you know, in port, you know, but not the whole fleet. And then during COVID, you know, there was a number of ships that were grouped together in the Caribbean, you know, that way they could share supplies and move crew around easily. But this is like the first time that something like this is truly intentional. So like I said, we are very happy and excited to be a part of it. So that's it. I don't have any more else to talk about for the Sisters at Sea meetup on Virgin. I can't think of anything else I want to add, you know, but we look forward to seeing you guys out there on the high seas whenever you do decide to go. And if you are on Virgin, you know, hey, I think you're going to have a great experience. And and like I said, we are going to put our money, time, and resources behind going on Virgin going forward. But don't let that make you think that we are bourgeoisified. So if we decide we want to go to Antarctica, Virgin does not go there. We're going to get on another cruise line. If we have a family reunion, or there's a bunch of people that we know that are going on Carnival, or they're going to go on Royal Caribbean for, you know, an affinity cruise, we'll get on the cruise ship with you guys and we'll still come. So it's not like, so I'm just saying we're making a point that if we are going to go on our own accord to enjoy a cruise ourselves, we're going to put our money, time, and resources behind Virgin. All right, guys, that's it. Brother got a little bit carried away, so I had to cut out the last little part here. But I appreciate you guys always following me and watching these videos. And we will be in touch again soon, guys. All right, take care. Peace. In my life. Oh, shit. Okay, my brother fell. This is black ice. Okay. All right, I'm okay. All systems check. All right, I'm good. So let me just penguin it.